brain could only see equal to how it's wired. If there's no circuitry for patterns in the brain, then you don't see reality, right? It's called pattern recognition. So then how do we begin to see things that exist but we don't have the circuitry to perceive, right? In other words, we don't see things how they are, we see things how we are. So you spend the majority of your life narrowing your focus on everything material in this three-dimensional reality. You see objects, you see things, you see people, you see bodies, you see places, and our senses plug us into the three-dimensional reality. So everything that's known to us is wired in our thinking neocortex. So what we're seeing, and it's happened to me so many times, let's say you have a profound mystical experience. There's 4 states of consciousness. There's wakefulness, there's sleep, there's dreaming, and then there's the transcendental moment. Now that transcendental moment is something that we have been working to induce. In fact, we now know we can induce it. We've measured it. We know the pineal gland in certain areas of the brain become active, that the limbic brain all of a sudden moves into high frequencies. And a person has a full-on sensory experience without their senses. In other words, whatever is going on between their ears is more real than anything they've ever experienced before. So if your senses are heightened, you know, right now, if everything you were seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, if your senses were heightened, your awareness of everything around you would be heightened as well. Well, awareness is consciousness, and you can't have consciousness without energy. So in a sense then, if a person has a transcendental experience and they start interacting with beings that are not physical, if they have that really profound experience, that experience is going to be logged in their brain because experience enriches their brain, yes? The end product of an experience is an emotion, but you wouldn't feel fear from these beings. You would feel a kind of a love or a grace or a presence or an acceptance. And so then you wouldn't be intimidated or afraid of them. You wouldn't throw them into the box of some dogma or superstition. It's a profound moment where you're feeling such profound and intense love that you're leaning in and paying attention to the pictures in your mind. And in a sense, the stronger the emotion you feel from that inner event, the amount of gratitude or love or joy that you feel, the more you pay attention to the pictures in your mind. Now you're branding and embossing new circuitry in the brain. Now what's the significance of that? Well, when you come back to your senses, now you can perceive a broader spectrum of reality, because you're going to begin to see things that have always existed, but you didn't have the circuitry to perceive them. So then, as we activate the pineal gland, it acts like a radio receiver, and those tiny little crystals, as we talked about in our last interview, begin to shimmer. And if a student or a person can begin to tune into energy and frequency, to know how to suppress the mechanism of the neocortex, the memory bank of the known self, to slow their brain waves down into theta, in that state where the body's asleep and the mind is awake, and you can tune into frequencies and activate that system, that little pineal gland is going to hook into a frequency that's carrying information, and it's known as a transducer, which means it's like a radio antenna or a TV antenna. It's going to translate that frequency into profound imagery. That imagery then is not going to be anything that's known to you. It's going to be something that's outside the scale of known. So when a person comes back to their senses, they're going to perceive a broader spectrum of reality. So I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, I started sensing these presences in the room during our week-long events.
It started at the week-long events.
Well, it started at the 5-day, 4.5-day workshops. I started, out of the corner of my eye, started perceiving certain things, primarily when we were doing the pineal gland meditations. I had other meditations as well, but there was an energy in the room that I noticed, and they're very noble, and they're very interested in what we're doing.
Observing?
Many times in the beginning, they observe. They are along the walls, and they're not small. They're very, very tall. Most of them probably 3 meters, maybe more tall. I mean, they're beautiful and big, and they have this grace about them and this presence, and they're very interested. They observe. And when I started seeing them and perceiving them, I never really asked who they were. I just observed. And for me, when we do the pineal gland meditations, I'm up at 3 in the morning or 2:30 in the morning, and we're going, and everybody's sitting up and laying down, and I'm awake the entire time, and I'm working with the audience, and I start doing the meditations with my eyes closed while I'm doing it, and a lot of times I open my eyes and I'm in theta. The door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is wide open, and in a sense, I'm dreaming with my eyes open, and all of a sudden I start perceiving things. Well, when that started happening, people started reporting things back to me, and sometimes it was kind of cool because we started getting stories of 2 different people in a room of 1,000 people saying, I saw this incredible thing, and the other person saw the exact same thing. And I saw something very similar. I never said it, but all of a sudden you're starting to get a collective noticing something happening. Well, I was getting ready for the day at one of our events, and as I was waking up and moving around and I was between worlds, they started talking to me. And they said to me, we can only lower our frequency to a certain point. We can't lower our frequency anymore, our energy anymore, because we would change our consciousness, and we love ourselves too much to do that. But if you can raise the frequency of the audience to a higher frequency, we'll meet in that place where that energy intersects. And so there's an invitation or a door for them to move through or to exist as. And there would be like an older sister, an older brother that totally loves you and sees that you're really making an effort, you're making great strides, and they're just a little bit higher on the spiral, you know?
During the meditation, I was, nowhere and in the blackness, and suddenly I saw these tall beings standing in the room in an oval, really tall, like pillars, and they were blue and pink, and they were tall, and the room was like so high that it was almost like a stadium, and they were standing there and with a lot of dignity and love and wisdom, and they were talking to me, or one of them was talking to me, and not really talking, but I could hear it, and said to me, you are a leader, and you have to stop asking, you have to be. And I realized that if I ask, at that moment, if I ask, I need to get something. But if I am, then I am. And that was before the teaching he gave today on that. So I realized that, and I saw myself standing with young people and with a lot of people coming to my door, and they said, times are hard and we need leaders. And so I felt really a lot of love and a lot of energy.
So this experience today was an out-of-the-body experience, and it was so great, so special. It was, I was feeling so strongly like never ever before. It was so real, but at the same time it was so, wow, what happened to me? Oh, let it go. So it's really hard to say in words what I experienced, but I would like to express it in feelings. It was just like coming home. It was like going out of the body, but at the same time staying connected. So I never lost my real body, but I was somewhere else because I could look on it and I could, but I was still connected. It was not totally gone. So, but it was like flying. I had it once 3 years ago. So, and at that time I always wished to have it, to get back to that point and maybe to experience it even stronger. But in these 3 years, it never happened to me. But today, yeah, breakthrough.
So I just can say to everybody, go for it. Don't give up on the breath, because it took a while, but once you have it, then it's like, oh my God, it's insane. It's a real orgasm from the head, you know?